What's up, everybody? I'm at the Zombie Go Boom backyard. Safety is #1 priority. And here's Chuck. He's gonna show us how to sharpen the knife, because they test a lot of guns on the zombie heads they make.
Knives and guns, yeah.
Yeah. And those zombie heads are almost like human skull, and they're very strong. So they sharpen a lot of knives and like swords, a lot of stuff. So take over.
Alright, well, I'm going to be showing you guys how to sharpen a knife with a bunch of different implements, even if you don't have a knife sharpener. Now, what I usually carry with me is this, and this is a Smith's knife sharpener. It's diamond stone, which basically means there's actually diamond on the front and back of it. It has a coarse side and a fine side, and you will need both. The coarse side is to really get the edge going if you have a really dull knife, and the fine side is to sort of hone the edge once your knife is already sharp, but you want it to be razor sharp. Usually what people have is either the Japanese use whetstones. Here in the Western world they usually use carbide for coarse, and then they use ceramic for fine, and then after that step you want to strop the blade, which is basically fine-tuning the edge so that it's not as serrated and microscopically serrated. It just really makes it fine and smooth and able to chop and cut whatever. But anyway, so what I'm going to show you first is some basics. And so what I have here is my stone, and again I'm going to be showing you different ways of doing it. If you don't have a sharpener, you'll be able to sharpen anyway. Alright, so the first thing you want to figure out is what is your angle. If you're working with a machete, you want a 30-degree angle, which is more for chopping. If you're working with fine cutlery like kitchen knives, you want like a 10-degree angle, and that's more for like cutting tomatoes and stuff like that. For the most part, with knives like these, work knives or folders like this K-bar mule, you want more of a 15-degree angle. And so make sure you get your angles right. If you go over 30 degrees, you're not putting an edge on it. And if you're going past 10 degrees, you're just going to be scratching the profile of your blade, and you're not going to be sharpening anything. So 15 degrees, and basically you want to cut into your sharpener as if you were taking skin off of like an animal. So you go this way, this way, this way, and I did it 3 times, so I want to make sure I do it 3 times. You really don't want to space out here. If you do it more times on one side than another, you won't be doing a good job. And also, just you won't be doing, if you don't count right, you won't be doing a good job. So you want to make sure you pay attention. And I'm using the fine stone right now because this knife is already sharp. But if this knife was completely dull, you've been using the coarse side, and then you'd move on to the fine side. Now, that's how you normally sharpen with a sharpener, and you can get different types of stones. This one's another diamond stone. It's just bigger, so it's a lot easier to move across it, but this is good for travel. But let's say you don't have a sharpener. Well, what do? Well, there are a lot of things that you can use. For example, like I said, if you have a fine, if you need to sharpen with a fine stone, you can always use ceramic. And cups, coffee cups, a lot of them are made of ceramic, so you can actually use a ceramic cup same way, just as if you were cutting into it or slicing a piece off, and then make sure you count again. And I'm doing about 15 degrees on this one. Another thing you can use is I have this cup, this glass cup that I made thanks to one of Taras's videos, where it used to be a Perrier bottle, and I cut it. And check out his video on cutting glass with string and acetone. But this is a good illustration of what you can do with a car window. So at the top of the window of a car, it almost works like ceramic. It's not as good, but if this were a car window, or just a glass cup like this one, you can you can sharpen it that way, and it's fine as well, almost like ceramic. Not quite. You might want a cup would be a lot better, but if you only have a car window or a glass cup, that can work as well. Another thing you can use is a file, and you probably want to use the fine side. Now a thing about anything that's made of steel, because you can use a file and you can use another knife as well to sharpen, the way you would sharpen on another knife. You see a lot of people use edge to edge. That's not very smart. What you want to use is you want to use the back of the blade. Thing is, there's this thing called the Rockwell hardness. It's a certain number for how hard a steel is. So you want to make sure that the steel that is sharpening the other steel is harder than the steel you're sharpening. Otherwise you won't be doing anything. This cold steel Spartan has a Rockwell hardness of about 60, and this K-Bar Mule, as far as my reading, has a hardness of about 56. So I can actually sharpen this knife on this knife. So you basically go with the spine of the blade so that you're not screwing this edge up, and you sharpen very much the same way. And this would also be fine if you want to do something that's more coarse. Again, this file works pretty well, and sandpaper works pretty well. And sandpaper, pretty much the same thing. 1, 2, 3. It's as if you're cutting into it. 1, 2, 3. Another thing you can use is cement. A lot of people don't know this, but if all I have is some cement, you can get it wet if you want to. You don't have to, but basically just make sure there's nothing there and you have a smooth part. You don't want anything with just like, you know, you just want to find a really smooth part of the cement. And then here you can do it the same way. You can scratch in, or you can go forward and back. That's actually the easiest way to deal with cement. And then make sure you do the same. Now you don't want to go, this isn't the best way to do it, and it could screw up your knife a little bit because you're taking a lot of steel away. So don't do this unless you absolutely have no other way of sharpening it. And don't do it too hard, because if you do it too hard, it'll heat up the blade and then it'll lose its original temper. So you want to make sure that the blade stays cool whenever you're doing this. After you're done sharpening, what you want to do is called stropping. And basically, once you're done putting an edge on the knife, what happens is it has microscopic serrations, and you want to take those out. You want to make the edge really smooth. So what people do is they use this leather strop. I don't have a leather strop, so what can I use to strop my blade? Well, a lot of people use a leather belt. And stropping is a bit different than honing or sharpening. You don't cut in to the strop like you would on a sharpener. You go away from it, and that's so that you don't cut into your belt. And also, the angles aren't that big of a deal here, because this leather is soft enough where it'll absorb the shape of the blade that's already there. And so you basically do that, and that helps with the and that should do a really good job stropping it. Another thing you can use for stropping is cardboard. A lot of people don't know this, but cardboard has clay and dirt in it, and it's bad enough where if you cut cardboard enough with a knife, it'll dull it. Well, that's because it's changing the shape of the blade, which means you can use it, if you use it properly, you can actually use it for honing. And if you have a burr on your blade, you can knock that burr off just by cutting into the cardboard a couple of times. Also, you can strop, a lot of people don't know this either, but you can strop with wood. And if you have a burr, it's a lot easier to knock the burr off with the wood. But anyway, so we're pretty good here. Let's see how well we did. I don't have a piece of paper, but I do have this sandpaper. So, you know, pretty sharp. A lot of people would just cut and they'll be like, oh, this knife is sharp. A good test for sharpness is called feathering. A lot of you know, butchers and chefs use this, and instead of just cutting straight through, you just want to do like little cuts like that and just basically feather the cut, and that's how you know you have a really sharp blade.
Do that again. Okay, go ahead.
So that's called feathering. So you know you got a really nice blade. If I get a piece, let me get a piece of paper real quick and I'll show you a couple of other things. Another test you can do to see how sharp it is cut in and back up, you know, and basically it's a really difficult cut to do. Most knives aren't sharp enough to do that. And this is, you know, this is not just thin paper, this is actually pretty thick. But if you fold it like this, you can actually also just take it out like that. And then, like, now you know you have a pretty decently sharp knife. This could be a little bit sharper. This is really good steel. This is 1095 Crowvan steel. I really love this knife. I also really love this the Spartan that I have here by Cold Steel. This is K-Bar Cold Steel. These are both excellent knives to carry around with you. But anyway, that's just a couple of tips in case you do have a sharpener. Now you know how to sharpen with it. If you don't have a sharpener, now you know how to sharpen without it. And it doesn't matter where you go, you can always find some ceramic or a piece of glass or some cardboard. Even if you don't have a sharpener, now you know how to sharpen pretty much anywhere. You should be able to find a piece of glass or some cardboard or some wood or some ceramic or whatever it is you may need in order to do this sharpening. So hopefully you won't be stuck with a dull knife, at least not for very long, now that you know all of this information.
Alright guys, that's pretty much it. That was amazing. I learned a lot today and my knife's gonna be sharp now. So subscribe to Zombie Go Boom TV. Chuck over here, an executioner, and they have a couple more guys helping them out. Awesome stuff. Check out the trailer right now and subscribe.
What's up, future survivors? Welcome to the bloodiest show on YouTube. That's right, we are Zombie Go Boom, the show that puts the weapons to the test to see if you have what it takes to survive the zombie apocalypse. We have new episodes every week, so if you want to survive, subscribe to Zombie Go Boom right now.